Are you one of those people who was worried about God of War Ragnarok feeling like Miles Morales? How people said that was like an expansion of Spider-Man as opposed to a fully fledged game that required your $70? Well, I don't think you've got to worry anymore after today's GameInformer article and video they put out talking about the trek players will be able to make to Svartalfheim, otherwise known as Nidavellir. And you may remember that from Marvel's Infinity War, but this Nidavellir looks a little different from the one that we saw in outer space in the MCU. This one's much more grounded. It is one of the regions that was locked out in the original God of War game, and I'm happy to see that it is here in the second game. Let's talk about this. Hi, I'm LittleBobby here from 59 Gaming Direct, and today we're going to be talking about the new interview and footage released from God of War Ragnarok and the new destination Svartalfheim. But before we begin, if you're new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button if you enjoy the content and ring that notification bell if you'd like to stay up to date with all the news, reviews, and other content that we bring you here on 59 Gaming Direct. And make sure if you enjoy this video that you leave a like, because that really helps us out with the YouTube algorithm. All right, let's get into it. So if you remember in the original God of War, we had access to, I believe, 6 of the realms. We had access to Helheim, Jotunheim at the very end, Alfheim, Midgard, as well as Muspelheim and Niflheim. And the lore of the original game established that Odin had locked down the entrances to the other realms in order to prevent anyone that he did not approve of getting to those realms. So one of the realms that was locked down was Svartalfheim. And Svartalfheim, also known as Nidavellir, is the home of not only dark elves, but also the dwarves. The dwarves are known to be a fairly industrious race, right? We know that from Brock and Sindri from the first game. 2 of my favorite characters from that game, absolutely great pair of characters there for comedy relief. But now we're going to be able to see the home of the dwarves, where they came from. And it shows off a really impressive city with lots of things going on. There seems to be a lot of mechanical apparatuses, what look to be artificially made canals, and a whole little city that the dwarves have built for themselves. And I think it's pretty cool because we know already from Brock and Sindri how industrious that the dwarves can be. One of the big things that is really cool about this, especially in this video, is that you see that Kratos gets to use the Leviathan axe as well as the Blades of Chaos to solve environmental puzzles. He can also command Atreus to go out and reach areas that he might not be able to reach. It's kind of similar to the first game where he would boost Atreus up and Atreus might throw down a rope or a ladder or something to get Kratos to a higher spot. Seeing this kind of environmental puzzle is really cool in my opinion. I absolutely love these in any game. I'm a big Zelda fan. Any kind of game with a lot of environmental puzzle solving is really up my alley. I just love that stuff, especially when it's stuff that's realistic and kind of built into the lore of the world. That's always super impressive to me, and I cannot wait to see this in God of War Ragnarok. And as part of the article by Jason Guisao, what we see is an interview with lead level designer Jason Writing and level designer John Hickenbottom. And they go on to talk about their modus operandi with creating a place like Svartalfheim. They say, we wanted to involve the gameplay in the level spaces, more variety and verticality. In Svartalfheim, you'll have lots of places that you go to all within one realm. It's so much content. One of the specifically cool things is that the Leviathan axe will be used and the Blades of Chaos will be used with their particular elements, right? We're talking about the freezing of geysers with the Leviathan axe, which I thought was a really cool touch. In the first game, the Leviathan axe, especially when you powered it up, could freeze enemies in place. And we see the Blades of Chaos kind of pulling at and ripping apart a pot in the footage. Well, I'm wondering if, especially with all the water around, if there's any standing water, maybe you'll be able to use it to boil water to start some kind of chain reaction with some of the machinery. Later on in the interview, Hickenbottom is asked about his kind of mindset when creating the space, and he said, we wanted to show off the dwarves and what they've been doing here. They're using water to propel and move things. Even throughout the different biomes, you can see the dwarves creating huge environments. And when Kratos comes in, it's like, how does he bend the environment to his will? I personally love this line of thinking because that's one of the big things about Kratos is that he will find a way to bend things to his will and make things happen. That's his character, and that's basically always been his character. But getting back to this interview, there is a final quote from Writing that says, it was a little lonely in the last game. So specifically with Svartalfheim, we're trying to show this lived world. There are things here besides just you two. And that is really awesome to hear because I will agree, it seems a little weird that there was not really anything in the entirety of Midgard except for the spirits that hung out waiting to give Kratos and Atreus quests, the World Serpent and Freya. I don't really remember anything else. Oh, and maybe Brock and Sindri, but they kind of appeared everywhere wherever you needed them. Seeing a place that's constructed specifically to be a hub and kind of a place where you can go and interact with other living beings in this universe is going to be really cool. And I'm wondering if as a hub, it's going to serve as the major place where you kind of go and upgrade things. Remember, Brock and Sindri are dwarves. That's where you're able to upgrade all of your armor. And I'm hoping we're going to see some real like weapon and armor masters here that outdo Brock and Sindri. And that'll kind of lend some legitimacy to us getting stronger maybe than we were in the first game. If now we have real, true hundreds and hundreds of year old dwarven masters who've been practicing their craft for ages, I think that would be really awesome to see and could lead to us getting some potentially awesome new weapons, maybe even a special custom weapon made for Kratos himself. Or if we do fight and kill Thor, if we take Mjolnir for our own, then we can happily take it to the dwarves and have them upgrade it for us as the adventure moves forward from that likely mid-game point. And kind of moving on to more subject from the video, we do hear that there is a plan to make sure that all of the worlds that we did visit before are going to be able to be accessed again in God of War Ragnarok, and that the worlds that we saw before are now going to be expanded upon and they're going to feel completely different. I personally think that's awesome because I would love to see more of Muspelheim and Niflheim, as well as new areas of Alfheim and Helheim maybe that we didn't get in the first game. Remember, there was a big chunk of Helheim that was kind of cut out because they just didn't have time to really finish it, including the giant scary bird that sits in the back when you're fighting the ogre. That was originally going to be a boss for the game, but they couldn't get it together in time. So hopefully we can see that boss fight reimagined and put back in Helheim in God of War Ragnarok. And on top of that, the confirmation now that we are going to be able to head to Vanaheim and Asgard as well as Svartalfheim, I think it's going to be really cool. Remember, Vanaheim and Asgard are the home of like the deities in this world. Remember, the Vanir are a set of deities and the Aesir are a set of deities, and they live in Vanaheim and Asgard respectively. There was a lot of war. That's why like Odin and Freya got married, right, to hopefully relieve some of that tension between their two people. And I think it's going to be really cool to see these two fantastical places, right? Because we know Asgard is supposed to be really fancy, right? It's the home of the Aesir, the big boy gods, right? Thor, Odin, and we'd hope that it would be kind of fantastical. But with all this stuff being said, I think that we really do have a great game coming to us in November. We can't say for sure, obviously, as we know with everything, but I will tell you this, I pre-ordered the Jotnar edition because I love God of War 2018. That's one of my favorite games I've ever played. And if you are excited for this, I want you to let us know down in the comments, especially after reading this article, if you read it, watching this video, if you watch it. Let us know what you think, because we are so hyped here at 5-9 Gaming Direct for the God of War Ragnarok release. We're likely going to be streaming it. We're likely going to be covering it with a number of videos because this is going to be a huge game and a huge win, I think, for people who do have a PS5 and a PS4. But like I said, what are your thoughts? Are you hyped, or are you just going to kind of wait till it comes out and see where it lands? Let us know down in the comments below. Again, I'm LittleBobby. Thank you so much for watching today, and I hope to see you soon.